Hello, welcome everyone. Hi, Yia. How's it?
Yep.
So for everyone who's just joining in, welcome to our virtual kitchen at the Seed Project and also at Chef Yia Vang's house. So I want to introduce myself and then Yia. I'm Chinita Pindara Potter and I run the Seed Project based in North Minneapolis. And we grow social empowerment ecosystems through critical language, storytelling, and organizing. So today we're super excited to have Chef Yia Vang, who's joining us. And so I just want to introduce a little bit about who he is and what he does. Yia Vang was born in a Thai refugee camp, came to the United States at 5 years old, and eventually arrived in the Twin Cities as part of the largest urban Hmong population in the world. He cooked at Nighthawks, Borough, Gavin, Cason, Spoon, and Stable before starting Union Kitchen, and serves as a passionate, tireless, funny, and forgiving advocate for Hmong food as an expression of Hmong culture. Thanks for that. That's a great bio, by the way. Welcome.
Yeah, I didn't write that.
I know, we pulled it from your website.
Yeah, our PR people did it. It's always weird when people ask you, like, could you write your bio? I'm like, oh, I'm so awesome. Oh, wow. It's so weird.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you. So I don't know if there's more you want to add to yourself, to introduce yourself more about what you do, where you're at.
Yeah, we started out as a pop-up restaurant probably about 4 years ago, and then we moved to about a year and a half ago. We have a residency, so that means that there's a Sociable Cider Works is this brewery, and they bought a really big food trailer. So they said, hey, do you want to come set up in here until you can build your own brick and mortar? So we've been there for a year and a half, and then because of the pandemic and everything going on, we used like our big thing was like when people come to the when they come to the brewery, they can order food, order drinks from they order drinks from the brewery and they order food from us. But since the pandemic and nobody's coming to the breweries anymore and breweries shut down, we do takeout. So if you're in the Twin Cities area, if you're looking for takeout food, we do these family meals and takeouts, and it's been going really well. You know, our guys are working hard. Yeah, and they're actually we're finally open 7 days a week. We were able to do like 5 days a week, but now we're 7 days a week. And so you can just go online at unionhmongkitchen.com, and then you can order online from there.
Awesome. Thank you. So how have you been in this pandemic? How's it been going?
There's been a lot of challenges, you know, been working through a lot of things. So right before, the pandemic really hit hard in February, we actually did a Kickstarter for our new brick and mortar restaurant that we're planning on building out. So the name of the brick and mortar is called Vinai. That's the name of the refugee camp my parents met in. That's where they had all of us, except for my youngest brother, who was born here in the Twin Cities, or in St. Paul. So so there was a very special place, very special name for us. And so that's what I wanted to call it Vinai as an homage to my parents. And this whole restaurant was planned. I mean, it's the whole point of the restaurant is kind of like a love letter to my parents. So yeah, so we have it all set up, and we raised about $100,000 in February, and that was awesome.
Wow.
Through Kickstarter. And then now we're just everything's kind of on hold right now. We're still trying to figure out a few new different ideas, especially with what restaurant is going to look like in the future after the pandemic. So there's a lot of restaurateurs here in the Twin Cities that we are actually in discussion right now. We have a group called the Twin Cities Restaurant Coalition that I'm a part of, and we meet like twice a week on Zoom, and we talk through all the logistics of it and everything like that. So
Wow, that's great. That's amazing. And I hope we'll be able to actually be in a brick and mortar soon with you. For those of us joining us right now, we are going to do a few fundamentals of kind of, going over what is, what are some key ingredients every spice cabinet should have, what sort of kitchen utensils and tools you need in your kitchen, and any tips that you might have for those joining us on like favorite brands or type of type of ingredients for those, for cooking some staples that you have. So I wanted to start there on kind of the fundamentals, and maybe you can walk us through that, and maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know if you have a tour of your own spice cabinet, but that would be awesome.
Yeah, we have a little setup. So I am going to move you towards, let's see if this works. I'm going to move you on my phone. Let's see if this works. Then my girlfriend, Mary, is actually going to.
Shout out to Mary.
Yep, she's actually going to help out. Oh, man. Okay, now this. Okay. So we're going to, can you guys see us?
Yes.
Okay, so we gotta have a little setup here. A friend of mine, he has a wood board company that he made us this wooden board. It's pretty cool. So here's like some basic equipment. I have some really cool friends. So my buddy Nate made us this really cool cleaver knife, and so I just really love using this knife. The handle, he made it as an homage to Hmong knives. So if any of you guys have ever seen like Hmong knives out there, so it's really cool that he made. So I use this a lot. So that's kind of like the big, the knife I use. Pestle and mortar, mortar and pestle and mortar. This we have this. I have a metal one here. It's like $30, but you can buy like the clay ones, the ceramic ones for like $10, $12, depends. Some of the basics that keep around the house, got some garlic, limes, Thai chilies, shallots, oil, salt, pepper, and then we're not going to use fish sauce in this recipe. Or sorry, we're not going to use oyster sauce in this recipe, but I always have oyster sauce. And then we have fish sauce, so we have two kinds. We have what the Laotians call badak. This is like the funky of the funky. If you think about it, it's like the unfiltered fish sauce. And then we use squid because, I don't know, just what we used growing up. But you can use any kind, and it's like the most inexpensive. It's like $1.90, I think, for this whole bottle. So this more of the refined. And then the soup spoon is our measuring spoon growing up. So when we were cooking, my mom always used this to measure out stuff. That's kind of the basics of what we have and kind of what we'll use tonight.
So someone just asked, where do you usually buy these items?
Any Asian store. There's a lot of local Asian places, Asian markets around here. There's like Twin Dragon, Double Dragon, Star Ocean, Oceans. There's like I always jokingly say there's some kind of dragon or star or some tiger somewhere. Just they're all this. Basically, there's a bunch of stores around. Also just herbs wise, lemongrass. And then I always tell people with lemongrass, if you cut it, break it, smash it, smell it, it smells like Fruit Loops. So basic herbs, scallions, cilantro, Thai basil, mint, and then this is called, the name is peakpot, but sometimes it's also known as Vietnamese mint. And then culantro, also known as sawtooth cilantro. So kind of like a when you get all this when you get all this herb, like fresh herbs, you're always like, oh man, like I don't want it to die fast. So in the restaurant, what we do is we literally just take some wet, you take a little damp cloth or a damp paper towel, and then you just kind of wrap them in damp paper towel when you get home and put them in Ziploc bags and like try to press all the air out of it without squishing the herbs. And then you give it like, it gives about another week for it to last. So a little trick, especially if you're doing like a setup where you're gonna be using the herbs, just take a damp towel, throw it on top. Especially if you're gonna like do like spring rolls and everything, you take all your herbs, put it in, put a damp towel on top. So when your friends all come over and they're ready to do spring rolls, you can open it up and it won't be wilty. And then we have some sticky rice. I always keep some sticky rice or some sweet rice, which is sticky rice basically. and then some regular rice too that's around. But you have that.
That's great. Actually, I asked the wrong question.
Shoot.
Last person asked, they're asking about where you got that wooden board.
My buddy, he's actually a plumber by trade, but he just makes the boards out. And so his little company's called Scout, SCOUT. So
Okay.
I don't know if he makes it anymore, but all I know was at that time he did. So I just told him, he's like, how big the board? I'm like, make it as big as possible. So he just made it.
Awesome.
He makes it in his basement. So it's a big countertop too.
It is. It's really nice. I'm all about that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So today you're going to tell us what you're going to be making.
So we're going to be making grilled Laab. So Laab is actually, when the word Laab is translated out, it just means mince. Sometimes like the Thai version or the Thai pronunciation, or sometimes people pronounce it as larb. We pronounce it as Laab at home. And literally it just means mince or chop finely. And so Laab, you can use any kind of protein. We've even done it with mushrooms before for vegetarians and stuff like that. But it's the dish is very special to me because when I think of Laab, I actually just think of my father making it. Every time I think of that, I think my dad. He loves making it. I think his is the best. He has these little tricks he uses, and so growing up, my father would make this all the time. The only time that he would actually make it is during times of celebration. And so Laab, it's a meat focused dish. So there's not a lot of we didn't have a lot of meat growing up, but I also knew that when it was time for a celebration or any time where we were getting together, gathering together, my dad would make this. So I just kind of took it to a different level. We use I use hanger steak. You can use, any kind of steak. You want a steak that's not too fatty. So any kind of cut that's not too fatty. So I use hanger steak. So my buddy Eric owns this butcher shop called Lowry Hill Meats. So I usually just get all our meats from them, call them up. You can call it, if you have your own butcher shop or anything, you can actually call them up and just say, hey, do you guys have any hanger steak or flank? Not flank, flat iron. And use hanger steak or flat iron is the best. And so what you're really trying to do is you're trying to want to just get a good steak that you can grill medium rare and cut it real finely, and then you can make this.
Awesome. Oh, the video went off for just a little bit. We heard you.
Yeah, sorry, there was a call.
Oh, someone was calling you.
Yeah.
So tell us how you first, you shared a short story about kind of the origin of this dish. Tell us about the history of it. How did you first eat it? How did you first experience it? Yeah, what was that like?
Yeah, as a kid growing up, we would go to, when there would be parties and stuff, the Laab would be there just would be a very small amount of it. And so it's if you can get to it, that's kind of the hope is I can, get through the party line and get there. And, a lot of times you do it as a salad, as a lettuce wrap. So it's, so we got some romaine lettuce and stuff, and we could just, do it as a lettuce wrap. I don't know. I always just loved it. It was, I think one of the things is it's a simple dish, but it takes a lot of technique. I think some people, they do a quick version of this where, you can use ground beef, you can use ground chicken, you can use ground pork, whatever, you can totally do that. But I like grilling a large piece of meat, a large steak. I like grilling it and then cutting it because you get that crust from the grill, you get that smoky flavor from the grill, the wood, and then there's a texture there too. So I really like that. It also reminds, sometimes Laab is made raw, so it really reminds me of tartare. So, just growing up in the restaurant world and having a chance to eat some really good tartare, it has that kind of texture to it. So, I like that. Most of all, it connects me to my father because he makes his duck Laab that is just incredible. Like he'll take a whole duck and he'll take all the meat off the duck, and then he'll chop it by hand. He'll grind the meat up by hand, or he'll chop it by hand, and he'll go from there. And so he just uses a really good technique. I love watching him make it. So that's, to me, is just really my connection with my father.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, great. Well, I'll let you take it away, showing us how you're making your goat Laab recipe.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything while we're doing it, just type it in, and we'll just ask questions, and I can, if I'm doing something too fast or something, just let me know. So go ahead.
Sorry, question. So for those of us joining us, we did send everybody the recipe. So if you have it, please follow along. And if you have any questions, let us know. We have a question from Dane. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say his name. Dane. I met Chef Yia a couple years ago, and he asked me what defines Hmong food. I had trouble coming up with a concise and succinct definition of it. Chef Yia, how do you define Hmong food?
Yeah, what I say a lot to people is Hmong food isn't a type of food, it's a philosophy of food, it's a way of thinking about food. I think for us to really define Hmong food as saying, oh, using this kind of ingredient, or we have to use this kind of, product, I think that what it really does is it kind of holds our people down, because if you know the history of our people, we're an indigenous group in Southeast Asia, but our people is spread out everywhere. And wherever our people have gone, we have used the land there, and we also glean from the cultures that are around that area, and we use that to forge our own culture. And so, if we're here in the Twin Cities, here in Minneapolis, St. Paul area, the way that we eat here, the way that we do food here, the way that we farm here is different from the Hmong people that are in like Fresno or Sacramento, and it's okay. And so I think that sometimes, the word Hmong actually is loosely translated to the word freedom or free. And a lot of times people think of Hmong people as, when a lot of my friends hear about the history of our people, a lot of times they'll say, man, that's really sad. I feel bad that you guys don't have a country of your own, a home of your own. I actually don't feel like that. I feel the reverse. I feel glad, because we're not pigeonholed to a certain area, that our people for hundreds and hundreds of years have adapted to what's around us. And that shows in the food that we make. And so I always say, if you want to know the history of our people, if you want to know the heritage of our people, know our food, because our food is intricately woven into our cultural DNA. And so if you want to know Hmong people, know their food, because their food actually tells the story of where they've been, where they are, and where they're going.
Awesome. Great answer. Thank you.
So, so I'm going to start out. So the first thing that you should do is, I kind of cheated because TV cooking is kind of fake. So the first thing you should do is, the seasoning that I put on, so I marinated our hanger steak. So it's seasoned, marinated. Our butcher, Eric, he's incredible. He took the hanger steak, he cut out all the sinews and all the silver skin and all the fat. And so it was a really beautiful piece of meat. And then we just marinated with that marinade. And when that marinade is more of like a dry rub. So if you want to make it more flexible, you just add a little oil into it. I'm not a huge follow the recipe kind of person. So I've been learning how to do that. So once you have it marinated, marinate, an hour, 2 hours, that's great. Overnight, it's even better. So again, and with the marinade, with the dry rub, the marinade, whatever you want to call it, marinade is wet and dry rub is dry. So when you hear the word marinade and dry rub, that's kind of the difference. With this, you can do it overnight. You can do it a few hours. And so what we got to do is, I have kind of this small kind of grill outside, and we're going to just go, once you get it out, grill your meat first, because the way that we're doing this, and by grilling the meat first, is then when the meat's done, you can let it rest, and then we can finish up the whole thing. So we're just going to take this out real quick out to the porch area here.
Okay. And then Lindsay asked, what is in the marinade?
So it's coriander. Gosh, I forgot the recipe. It's in the recipe. I have it here as
teaspoon of coriander, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon ground pepper, MSG, and salt. That sound about right?
Yep. And if you want, so I try not, since we're gonna grill this on a very hot grill, I try not to use like garlic, like herbs, like aromatics, like garlic, ginger, or lemongrass, because when you put it on the grill, it's gonna burn and it's gonna have a bitter taste. Does that make sense? So yeah, and then so you can take all that spice, put a little oil into it, so it helps spread it out, and that's what you get, and then let it sit. And then so we got this grill out here.
Archana asks, what's in the ramekins? Dried shrimp and something?
The ramekin has it has toasted rice flour and fried shallots, and that'll be part of the. So, do you want to bring it over here?
Mm-hmm.
So again, what we do is you want the heat to be pretty hot, and you want like a medium rare kind of grill on this. So we'll just leave it out here. Keep an eye on it.
So tell us about your grill. You got a traditional grill going.
Yeah, you can get one of these for like $30 at any Asian store. So basically, it's an aluminum bucket with like a porcelain inside of it. And so you just throw your charcoal in, and then you just find some rack, throw it on top, and then you grill off. It's great. If you have like 2 or 3 people you're just cooking for, it's great.
Wow, that's a great idea.
So here, we'll fake TV it, like, whoa, completely. Whoa. It will make sound effects. Okay, so we'll take this inside.
This is how we know you have your own show.
What'd you say?
I said, this is how we know you definitely have your own cooking show.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of faking stuff. So again, this is probably like medium rare. So you want to, what you want to do is once you get done with your steak is you set it to the side. Now, you don't want to start cutting it right away, because when you do, what happens is all that juice just flows out, okay? And you want to try to keep that juice in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to start making like the base of the seasoning for the Laab. So what we start with here is we will start with just the base of the seasoning. So a lot of it is, from what I learned from my father, is a lot of it is lemongrass. So again, what you can do at home if you want is you can just take like lemongrass, a little chili, a little garlic, and then you can put it in a food processor and chop it up, because you want it real fine, or you can just chop it up with a knife. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put it all in a pestle and mortar, and I'm going to kind of mash it down to almost kind of a paste. So it's all about what texture you're looking for. So you got the lemongrass here. We're just going to chop the lemongrass.
That's incredible knife.
Yeah, it's my buddy's name is Nate Zimmerman. You should look him up on Instagram. He builds knives. He forges them. And so he made this one for me. Okay, so with lemongrass, the middle third is probably the most tender. So the bottom and the top you can use for stock, but the middle third is the most tender. So what I love about this knife too is, what's really cool here is Nate actually, he signs his name on all his knives. So anyway, so you can just we're going to put it right in here. And then we're actually going to take some garlic. Okay, and you don't want a lot of garlic because you don't want it to overpower your food. So we're going to just take some garlic. Easiest way to get declove garlic is just take a knife, smash it down, and we'll just take, we'll do 2 cloves of garlic. These are pretty tiny garlic, so 2 cloves of garlic. Okay. Here. And then we are going to take some chilies, and it's totally up to you. So right now I'm just going to use 1 because the meat itself is got some already has some chili in it. So I'll just use 1. Throw that in here. Okay. And so once we got that in there, what we'll do next is we're gonna put a little salt in there. The salt's gonna help bring everything together, but it's also it also works as a it's like sandpaper. You know, when you're smashing it down, it'll bring everything in, and it releases the juice of all the garlic and the lemongrass and the chilies. So you got all that in there, and then what we'll do is, yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna do this anyways. You take the bottoms of the green onions, like the whites. I'm gonna throw that in there too, because I want to. Okay. Okay. So we'll have that. And then what you do, and then you just kind of mash it down to create a paste.
Smell there. So one of the biggest things about food from Laos too is we use a lot of herbs. Talk about how you incorporate that too in your cooking and why that's important too.
Say that one more time. Sorry, it's kind of loud. I can't hear you.
Yeah. So the biggest thing about Lao food is, in Laos in general is how do you describe the flavor palette for something like that? And I know as a Lao person myself, we use a lot of herbs, and your aroma is a huge part of it.
Yeah, I would just say it's like it sounds kind of goofy saying it this way, but it's very like herbaceous. It's very fresh. When I think of like when you have a drink like a mojito, how you get that really brightness of that mint. Like that's what I think of when it comes to Hmong food. It's very it's bright, it's bold, and it's very. I guess the word umami gets used a lot, but I really like it because it's like very savory, so I'm more of a savory guy than a sweet. I guess I shouldn't say that. It depends on how they do it. I'm an ice cream queen.
So Diane asked, Chef, where did you get your culinary training? Given the pandemic is hurting the hospitality industry, would you recommend younger people pursue culinary training for a job in the industry?
Yeah, so this is like my own personal opinion. I think it was just the way that I've been raised by my father and my mother. Sorry, but my dad always had this thing for us when we were kids, and when there was always a problem or something, he would always tell us, you work the problem. You work the problem, and then you go to the next. And there's another problem, you work that problem. Like just the never give up mentality. I think being in the restaurant industry right now, there's two sides. There is hope. One, we'll come through this, and then the other side, there's some people that are saying, like this is it. We don't know what's going to happen next. And I think that if we look at it that way, if we keep thinking about as, I don't know what's going to happen next. We're this is, it is sad and it's hard, and I recognize that, and we have to acknowledge that. But for us to say, I don't know what to do next and not move forward, I think that's how the restaurant world dies. So, I didn't go to culinary school. I didn't do any of that. I tell people, actually, I never wanted to get into cooking. I never really liked cooking growing up, but I was just good at it. And so my whole life has just been trying to get out of cooking. But, I should say my whole, high school, college years has been trying to get out of cooking. And it wasn't until post-college that I really learned what it meant when it came to food, when it comes to cooking, when it comes to, feeding people and how that is something that brings people together. So it took me a while to get there. And then, so I just worked in different restaurants, picked up different things. It was just kind of, I tell a lot of young cooks, it's how your work ethic. Because I think that there's a lot of young cooks that are coming into the industry that says, hey, I watched Top Chef, I saw Iron Chef, I saw this YouTube guy, I want to be like them. And what I tell those young guys is, I'm like, man, this isn't the place for you then if you want to be quote unquote famous, So that's one thing I always tell all the young cooks, you got to start, you know, from the bottom. And like I tell people, even though we own, you know, I own my own restaurant, and you know, we've been very blessed with the publicity we've gotten. Like, there are days I'm still just in the dish pit scrubbing pots and pans too. You know, you're never too good for stuff like that. And the moment you think you are, I think that's the moment where, you know, you realize that you're above, you know, the whole idea of, you know, the food service industry. So hopefully that answered the question. Okay, so I have this, sorry, I should have had this ready before. Okay, so if you guys can smell this, this is like the base of what I think the Laab smells like. It's lemongrass, chilies, and garlic. Okay, and so on a side note, if you want to just take that, put a bunch of oil in it, that becomes a really great marinade too for like chicken or pork. And I'm going to add a little oil in there. The reason why is we're going to put this with our steak, and you want, the oil is going to help, the oil is going to actually help take all that lemongrass, that garlic, and that chili. And it's going to help take that and coat that over the steak. So what we have here now is we have our steak. So we're just gonna quickly slice them. So when you're slicing steak, I always say find the grain. If the grain's going this way, you want to go against the grain. If you go with the grain, it's just going to be stringy. So again, remember the word Laab literally means like small cut, small mince. So I want to kind of mince it real small. So this is like, again, if you let your steak rest, you get this really, really, really kind of great color. Some, you know, you got this medium rare to medium rare. And what I love about the steak is you get this char. You want that char, because me, I love that texture. Okay, so you just take the steak if you have to. I'm just gonna cut this like there. Okay. And this is good to, you want to have a really good sharp knife for this. So I'm just gonna put this in the bowl. I'm gonna cut some more. Hanger steak is really good for, like, if you want to make like a steak salad, you know, and you throw it over some, you want to do this and throw it over some, you know, some like grilled vegetables, and then throw it over some lettuce. Makes a really good salad. Okay, so we got another here. Just find out where the line is, and then sorry, it's kind of weird just to watch me slice stuff. Okay, so once you get that steak sliced in, so a lot of time Laab is eating at like room temp. You know, it doesn't have to be completely, doesn't have to be hot. So once I have that in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that lemongrass, the garlic, and I'm going to add that in there. That's going to kind of be your base of your seasoning there. And then what we'll also do too here is we're going to take a little bit of shallots. You know, you can use red onions. I like using shallots because shallots are a little bit more mild. So we take some shallots right here. So there's a couple of ways of doing this when it comes to how you want to put all the herbs in. You can just take all the herbs by hand, pull them, and then just mix it in with the Laab, with the meat for the Laab. You can totally do that. I like keeping it a little separate because I don't want the herbs to all bruise up within the Laab. So we'll take a little bit of the shallot here, and then we're just thinly, you want thinly cut some shallots. Throw the shallots in there. Okay, throw your shallots right in there. Okay, and then once you have that, what we'll do, herb-wise, I do like adding a little cilantro in there. So we'll pick some of the cilantro, do a little rough chop, throw cilantro in there. Okay, and then you have your toasted rice flour. And this is essential. This is one of the essential flavors of Laab is toasted rice flour. You can buy it, you can make it yourself. So throw some toasted rice flour in there. And what the rice flour would do is it's going to help bind everything together. And if you put too much oil, if there's too much moisture in there, it'll help absorb all that. Okay. And then let's see what else we got. Oh, now we'll take this is the you gotta be careful when you open this thing because sometimes it just blows up a little bit. So this is the badak. It's the funky fish sauce. We'll put a little bit of that in there. You want that kind of that fermented, funky umami taste in there. I like fresh cracked pepper. Throw that. A little bit of salt. Okay. And then you want the acid because the acid is going to cut through this because there's a lot of meat in here. Just take your lime, roll your lime first so the juicing will be a lot easier. And what I always tell people is taste your food. So we're going to do half a lime for now. And we're going to toss it. I'm going to toss this. So right away I can smell that. I smell that lime. You got the lemongrass in there. You got that garlic. Okay. I'm gonna taste it. Move that. Throw a little bit more salt. Pepper. I'm gonna throw a little bit more of the squid fish sauce in there. Okay. Okay. So I always save this lime if somebody wants to squeeze it on, kind of like if you're doing a taco, if you want to squeeze a little bit more on, you can throw that in there. Okay. So we have that. And then what we'll do is we're going to start creating this dish here. So we're going to just we'll set this to the side. We're going to create like a kind of like a platter. So we'll have, is there any question? Or?
No.
Okay.
But we do
So
have 22.
I didn't know if we were still on or what the deal is.
Yeah, we're
So we got some romaine lettuce. Yeah, this is a great dinner to do, especially with the warm season coming in. Okay, so good. You guys are all still here. Okay, and then if you guys want to do like carrots, like shredded carrots, if you want to add like different kinds of like crunchy vegetables like bean sprouts and stuff, you can totally add into the mix here. So we'll do that. Again, this is the part where I get some of this herb and I just put it to the side, and you can just add the herb into your lettuce wrap as you put the Laab into the lettuce. Yeah. So I got mint right here. Mint is like, I love mint, especially in Laab. So we got some mint. We got some culantro over here, which is, again, sometimes it's called sawtooth cilantro.
So can you explain? Some people don't know what culantro is.
Yeah, so culantro is a cousin of cilantro. So it smells like cilantro, but it's a little bit more mild. And literally, it comes in this kind of long stalk, and the bottom is a little bit more rough, so you can just take the bottom off. Throw your culantro right here. So you're just making an herb. And you got some Thai basil, So just like if you're going to a pho shop, you got some Thai basil right here. And then what I like doing is I love getting these small cucumbers, I love to have
Yeah.
cucumbers because it helps with
You
the
have to
extra
have
crunch.
Yep.
Yep. So we got the small cucumbers that we're gonna just chop up, and you can throw that too into your lettuce wrap when you're assembling this together.
I like that idea. Most people use the regular sized cucumbers,
Yep.
but this actually cuts the time for a lot of people to just use the baby cucumbers. So that's awesome.
Yep. And then if you have, with these small finger cucumbers, if you have leftover, it's so easy to pickle them, you know? So, you know, the pickling brine is the 3-2-1 method. I guarantee you 95% of most restaurants that you're eating at, to make a pickle brine, that's what they do, 3-2-1. So it's 3 parts water, 2 parts vinegar, and 1 part sugar, and a handful of salt. So hopefully that makes sense. And you put that into, you throw all that in a pot, you boil it until everything dissolves, and then you let it cool down a little bit, and then you just throw whatever vegetables you want to pickle in there, like carrots, cucumbers, broccoli, bok choy, whatever. You just throw it all in there and let it sit for like 15 minutes, and it's, you know, quick pickle.
That's a great idea. So we have a few questions. Diane asked, number one, where did you get your ceramic dishware? And secondly, what are your tips on plating Asian food?
Oh, ceramic dishware? This is man, where do we get this? Oh, this is IKEA. Dude,
Yeah,
if you do IKEA, there's a lot of really cool stuff you can get there. Do you want to hear some? Okay, so this is like, I don't know, our designer would be super angry if she heard this. Dollar store's got some good stuff too. I'm not gonna lie.
That's right.
All you gotta do is make it look good, and nobody's gonna look at the bottom.
No one's gonna judge you, that's for sure.
Yep.
Joanne asked, what do you do with the leftover stems?
Of the culantro?
Yeah, I think so, or any leftover stems that you cut off.
So culantro, one of the things I found out with the leftover stem, you cut it really small, and then you can add it when you're making egg salad. Throw it into your egg salad. The same thing with if you have leftover stems of the cilantro, take that, you can put that into like a marinade and then blitz it up, and you can make a marinade out of that, or you can cut the stems of the cilantro really small and then use that as a garnish, like if you're making so there's a lot of flavors in there. So this is kind of, oh sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, that's fine. That looks great. Lily asked, where did you get your aluminum mortar and pestle?
Oh, the metal one? Asian market. Any Asian market. Here's the thing though, Lily. When you go in there, they're like spread out everywhere. It's never organized. So sometimes you like find one piece and you're like, oh, where's the smasher? And you have to go to like the other side of the store to find it. So you have to be like a detective. In a lot of like Asian markets, you kind of have to be a detective, grabbing stuff around.
This is true. This is a fact.
Yes. So, and then this is fried shallots. So again, I just throw the fried shallots right here. And the reason why is when we build it together, you can just take the fried shallot and sprinkle it on top.
Yum.
So, okay, so this is I'm just gonna throw this on our counter up here. So this is kind of our, that's like your vegetable. And again, if you want to make it colorful, you can throw in different kinds of veggies and stuff in there. And then
Lily asked, have you seen any benefits for using metal versus traditional clay for
pestle and mortar?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got the metal ones because we were a pop-up and we're constantly moving stuff in and out, and the guys kept dropping them and breaking them. I was like, hey, instead of paying $12 again and again and again, and pay $30, and every time they drop this, it doesn't break. I save a little money. So that's what it is.
It's all economical. Got it.
It's pure economics. Okay, so again, we have the Laab here now. Okay, and so you just take the Laab and we just kind of throw it right here on the side here.
So Archana asked, are these items ready-made, toasted flour and fried shallots? How do you make
you can totally make it yourself and be super bougie and try to get a Michelin star, or you can go to the Asian market and it's already made. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody's going to know. So
There you
It's
go.
like
Asian market.
when I talk to some of my chef friends who are like, I'll be really honest. Like when I talk to some of my white chef friends, they're like, hey man, like, do you make your own fish sauce? I'm like, no, man. Buy it. You know, like it takes like a year to make that, and I can go buy it
That is
for 30 seconds for
exactly.
$2. And so I think that, you know, sometimes a lot of kind of like the newer chefs want it, like, you know, I've been asked like, hey, do you make your own soy sauce? I'm like, no, Kikoman does it. They do a great job, you know? So we got some sticky rice that we already made, and what I love doing is to just take the sticky rice, you know, throw it right on the side here. You serve along with your Laab here. And, you know, there's this whole idea of eating everything like family style. And growing up, I told people, we don't eat things family style. We just eat dinner. You know, there's no such thing as a style. So we just kind of serve it. And again, what I'll do here is I'll take this lime that I had, and I'll cut it into smaller pieces. You throw your limes right there. You don't have to be this fancy if you're just eating with friends and family. Get your lime right there. And then that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Oh, Chef, now that, you know, in this current pandemic and some food items are limited, do you have any tips for substitutions or things like that that would be helpful for people who may not be able to get some of these super hard to find herbs or, ingredients?
Yeah. I mean, you can totally, I can go sit back down.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go sit back down on my computer so we're not moving around. But, let's see if this works. Oh, okay, here.
Magic.
Okay, I'm good, right? Yeah, so it's super simple to find some of these. Oh, hey, do you want to flip those? Yeah, sorry. It's super simple, like, you know, like Festival, Cubs, Safeway, whatever. You know, you could find cilantro, you can find green onions, you know, maybe like the Thai basil, maybe. But a lot of stores now are really trying to adapt. A lot of like mainstream grocery stores are really trying to adapt to the different cultures that are around them. So if you do have problems finding it, man, I don't know, because
people have been growing our own herbs.
Yeah, you could totally do that. So right now in the Twin Cities, like a lot of the Hmong farmers are starting to grow, you know, like a lot of their stuff starting to grow. So check with your local farmers market, and especially if you have Hmong growers, like check with them, talk with them, see the stuff that they're growing.
Right, that's a great tip. Joanne wanted to let you know, don't forget the meat on the grill.
Yeah, Mary just checked on it. Ooh. The heat was kind of low. Remember, this is like fake TV cooking.
Yeah, exactly. So, Chef, it's 5:53. We're going to go live now to open up more questions for anybody. Cool. So hang tight. But, yeah, why don't do you want to share with us your dish? Because it looks so good. My mouth is already watering.
Oh, you want a final look at it, or?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay.
And how would you, for those who don't know Laab, how do they eat it? How would you eat it?
Yeah, Mary can show you how to eat it.
Okay, Mary, show us.
Yeah. Okay. So, see if I can get the video back on my phone here. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So are there any other pandemic-friendly tips that you have at home, especially, especially Hmong food and, things like that, especially with dishes that are definitely much harder to find some fresh herbs and things like that? Yeah,
a lot of majority of Hmong food is actually it's braised, like braised or like kind of made into soups and stews. So yeah, so that's kind of it's simple. So
that looks good. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah.
Mary's hands, yes it is.
not going to eat it in front of everyone, she said.
Well, you have model hands, Mary. Just want you to
let me. So yeah, like I said, a lot of when it comes to Hmong food, it's all about simplicity. So for example, like one of the most basic probably Hmong dishes is braised pork ribs with or pork neck bones with mustard greens. So just throw it in a pot, you just brew it down, and then you just eat it with rice. Another one is like cabbage. You shave some cabbage, get some pork belly, cook the cabbage in the pork belly. Salt, pepper, and then have a little like hot sauce on the side, and then you throw that and you eat that over rice. And just a lot of rice bowls, like it's some kind of so I always say there are 4 elements in a Hmong dinner or a Hmong meal. You have your protein, you have your rice, you have your vegetable. Sometimes it's a vegetable in a broth, and then you have your hot sauce. And those 4 elements, we try to represent that at our restaurant. We try to represent that when we do the family takeout meal for people who want to take out. So just saying all those 4 components really creates this idea of like a full meal. So I remember as a kid growing up, I would go to my friend's house, my white friends in their house, and for dinner they'll have like a grilled cheese sandwich, and I'm like, that's cool. Like, we had our snack. Where's the real meal? And my buddy'd be like,
right.
Like,
That's
what?
real. It's real.
No offense to people who serve grilled cheese for dinner.
No, it's true. So someone had mentioned one of our friends, Kathy, had mentioned about how with just Asian food in general, especially Southeast Asian food, you can leave it out and eat it multiple times over and over. But that's not the same with American food.
Dude, okay, so can I tell you this? Like,
yes.
When I was a kid growing up, or like even now, not even right now, like I can go to my mom and dad's house, and the stuff that was made for lunch is still sitting on the table. They just put like tin foil over it, or they'll just take a plastic wrap, or they'll like go take other bowls and plates and just cover it. And you come in, they're like, "Oh, you hungry? There's some food." And we sit and you're just like, I'm like, my favorite thing is like late night eating at their house. Like stuff's just set out there. And and when I'm with my friends, like especially my white friends, they're like, oh, we have to put it in our Tupperware, and then we got to put it in the fridge because we can't make sure it gets. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm like, like, the funky fish sauce we threw in there? Trust me, no bacteria wants to grow.
That's right. Because
the bacteria is already there. Like,
that's right.
And so, I was always like, this is normal. Like, what's the deal? And so people would be like, oh no, like you can't do that. I'm like, seriously? Or like when people tell me like rice, if you're not gonna eat it the right way, you got to put it in the fridge. I'm like, really? We leave it out for a few days, and you just add it.
Yes. And the reality is our communities have grown up without refrigerators. So we had to leave food outside too, or make food that's going to last for multiple days outside. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Joanne said it builds immunity. Cold rice is gross except for fried rice. That's a comment.
Hey, there's no judging of cold rice. Many times I've had to eat cold rice over the sink.
That's real. So we're live right now on Facebook, and we're going to see if there's anybody who has questions. So just for those joining us live on Facebook, this is a Q&A portion with Chef Yia Vang from Union Kitchen and Vinay. And so if you have any questions, feel free to post it and we'll ask him. So Chef, what are some other pandemic friendly tips you have for people right now when home cooking?
Yeah, I think using what you have, or like I've said before, like just using what you have around. I think that's also, what's super amazing is this ability to connect with people while, like just the technology we have. So for example, like if I want to learn how to make like, I don't know, pasta or whatever, I can just hop online and just boom, 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 figure that out really easily. So there's just that connection, especially with technology and everything. That's really cool. I think another thing is like a step out of your comfort zone. That's, what I tell, like, for example, like chicken hearts are really inexpensive. So last night we just threw some chicken hearts on the grill, marinated. We just put that same seasoning we did on the steak. I threw it on the chicken hearts. sear them up, threw them on the grill, you know, pop them over with some bok choy, and then threw it over some rice.
Right.
You know, real simple.
Yeah, that's great. So Joanne asked, what dishes are signature to Union Kitchen? Any new menu items?
I would say, you know, our fried chicken has been kind of a hit. We've, you know, like on an average weekend, we go through like 200 to 225 pounds of fried chicken, for fried chicken.
Wow.
So, the reason we did, like, so a lot of these, you know, stuff on our menu is kind of childhood memory for me. So the reason we did fried chicken was, I remember as a kid coming home from church, we would stop at either KFC or Popeyes and get a bucket of fried chicken. When we get home, it'd be sticky rice, hot sauce, and fried chicken. We would never get the sides. I never knew that they sold sides. Like mac and cheese. Like, what the heck is that? You know, it's coleslaw. You know, it was like you get home and we just, you know, you get your sticky rice, and the best part of the fried chicken is when you get it extra crispy, and those little bits that, you know, that
fall off.
that fall off, and then you take your sticky rice, and it's like the claw, you know, from the game with the, you know, where you try to get the
right.
And you have, like, so pretend your hand is the claw, and then you're dipping, you're going down and you're dipping to get all those pieces. And then you try to create a crevice, right? I did anyways. And you scoop that little hot sauce in there. And so that became this idea for this fried chicken dish. The fried chicken thing is, it was just kind of like, some of the cooks on the trailer, we were kind of bored. We needed something to eat. And we're like, oh, let's make fried chicken. And all we had was, you know, tapioca starch, rice flour, and cornstarch. So we're like, I guess that would work. And then we were by, like, the brewery we're at is Social Cider, so they have cider. And so I'm like, why don't we just like cider batter it, you know, because that's the only like liquid that we have. And so the sugar inside the cider, that extra sugar inside the cider, actually creates a really beautiful coat around the chicken. And so on the outside of the chicken, it's super crunchy and it has all those bits, but inside it's still super tender. So it was an accident, and now it's like a lot of people ask for it, and it just reminds us of our childhood.
Yeah, that's a great tip too. So you talked a lot about childhood memories and things. How much influenced kind of your dishes, you know, and what you're cooking today?
It's all of it is my like, I think that we eat from memory, right? So what. Like I say that for me, I never really wanted to cook Hmong food because I was always embarrassed of Hmong food. So I ended up cooking at all these different restaurants, doing like French food, doing like, you know, Italian, doing all these different stuff. But when I went home and ate at my mother's table, I said that when I sit down at my mother's table and I eat that Hmong food, it like rejuvenated my soul. So for me, it's those memories. So like, for example, in the way that Hmong people sometimes eat, or just even maybe my parents, I don't know. There's just this idea. It's almost like a poverty mentality. It's this idea of like the elder generation, the elder group, they believe that we can suffer so that the younger one can make it. So when we eat at home, when we were kids, what my mom and dad would do is they would take off all the big pieces of meat, you know, around the bone, like the really prime cuts, and they would let us eat that, and then they would eat the bones, or the little like cartilage around the bones, and that's what they would eat. And I remember a few years ago, I remember this really thing that hits me really hard is I went home and we were eating, and I got, you know, I went home, we grabbed some lunch at my parents' place. And I love it. I love eating like pork neck, you know. I love eating the braised like oxtail. Like I love eating all those little, like the little crevices in there. And I remember I got to the dinner. I was at the dinner table and my mom's like, "Hey, eat some lunch with us." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I grabbed that and I started eating the bones and like the bits, and I feel like it's the best parts. Yeah. And my mom was like, no, we have the better part for you. So she even, like, till today, she'll still save that for us as the kids. Like, my dad, when he's eating fish, he would break off all the big tender pieces of meat on the fish, and he'll eat the head and the bones. Yeah. He still does that. I'm 35, and he still does that. Yes. And I told my mom, I said, "Mom, like, this is my favorite part, like, these bits." And she's like, no, that's like that's the stuff your dad and I do.
Right.
And so it's still inside of them. Like, it's still part of what they do is that they still believe that, hey, like we want to give you the best.
Yes.
And but it's like for me, my soul becomes like revived, or I get excited when I eat those bits that my mom and dad eats, you know?
Yeah, that's real. So when and we have similar experiences in that, in the Lao community too, a lot of our elders do that too, where, what's happening in this pandemic is it's resurfacing a lot of refugee habits. And so one of that is also, here, I'll eat these parts, you'll eat the better parts, right? And so that's real. So one of the questions from folks here is, so if there's a meat shortage, or if something happens like that, and I just want to also give a hat tip to the fact that at the meat plants right now, especially with the pork and the meat, poultry, is that there's a huge COVID-19 outbreak, right? So what do we then talk about when we're talking about a pandemic, and our elders and our parents have gone through multiple pandemics. So what does a survival kitchen look like? What is, and could we start thinking about vegetarian dishes or other substitutes? What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what's really interesting for me is we grew up eating all parts of the animal. Like, this wasn't a trendy thing. Like in the restaurant world, everyone was like, nose to tail, nose to tail. I'm like, you kidding me? Like, we call that a Tuesday at our house. Like, this wasn't like something special we were doing. That's how we always ate. Like, if we weren't eating nose to tail, we weren't eating. So it was very common to see everything on the dinner table. I mean, for me, I get excited when my dad does his like braised pork head, dish. And I get super excited about that. And I come home, I'm like, that's my jam, Or if my dad is, my dad will go to the farmers and he'll make deals with them, and he'll be like, hey, like I'll take, like, if you don't want, so lamb is the baby, and then sheep or mutton is like the older version of lamb, right? So a lot of people eat lamb because it's tender and better, but not a lot of people eat it when they're older and they're sheep, So my dad would be like, yeah, I'll take those, and like my dad and I were the only guys in the family who loves goat. Like, I love goat and sheep, and so I guess, like, I'm not trying to sound elitist or anything, but I myself, like our family, we didn't what's the nice, well, and please hear me on this, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but we didn't really struggle with that. You know what I'm saying? Of like, does that make sense? Like, we didn't struggle like, oh, what are we going to eat now? Because like, it was never always the prime cuts. It was always what, we had around. The other thing too about Hmong families, okay, here's the deal. I'll let you in. If any of the listeners are Hmong, they understand. Hmong families, we have like 50 different freezers in our house. And we are stacked. Like Hmong people, they buy houses not because the yard looks great. They buy houses because the garage is big and we could put in like 15 test freezers. And then when we do chickens or pigs or cow or whatever, like, we'll stack them in there. Oh, and then when we do our garden, we'll take everything, either preserve it, pickle it, or ferment it, or we will put it in baggies and freeze them. Like, and so, for a lot of like my parents, and they have like 3 chest freezers and of stuff. So for them, they're like, oh, pandemic, yeah, we're good,
It's
so,
true. It's not their first rodeo, right?
Yeah, right. It's not the first time they've gone through stuff like this,
Exactly.
Like, they have that feeling of like, we've been preparing this for our whole lives.
It's true. So one of the, another question, from Michael Saucer, what is your process of easing people? I don't know if that's the right word, but easing people who are not used to Southeast Asian food to realizing our food is bomb.
Yeah. Here's the deal. One of the things I've really realized is a lot of restaurants are using Southeast Asian flavors, techniques, I guarantee you that majority of restaurants that you guys eat at use fish sauce. They use crab paste. They use oyster sauce. They just don't say it, but they do it. You know, there's a little sprinkle MSG in there. I'm being honest. You know, you are eating Southeast Asian food. You know why? Because majority of these cooks, when they're eating good food, when they're not cooking, you know, whatever at these restaurants, they're eating at these Southeast Asian places. They're eating at, you know, Vietnamese places. You know, they're eating at Thai places, Laotian places. They're going to Hmong village. They're going to Hmong town. They're eating there.
Right.
And cooks are inspired by what they eat and what their palates like, what excites their palates.
Right.
And so a lot of these cooks are doing it, and they're taking that, and then it's influencing their food that they're making.
Right.
You know, that's the truth. And I think that most people are eating that, they just don't know it. So I think that it's the education of like why, like what's the point of fish sauce? You know, that fish sauce is, you know, like here's the deal. Anybody's ever drank the Bloody Mary and had Worcestershire sauce in it? Worcestershire sauce is fish sauce.
Absolutely.
It's a bunch of Brits that came to in India and South Asia there, and they were influenced by fish sauce. So they went back to England and they created Worcestershire sauce, which is fermented fish that makes Worcestershire sauce, but it's fish sauce. So the same people that would tell me, oh, gross, fish sauce smells really bad, I would never eat that, are the same people that would down a Bloody Mary with Worcestershire sauce in it and be like, this is delicious.
Right. Absolutely. So one of the things that this brings up is Vanita also mentioned, some in the audience mentioned that they love seeing your spread in Bon Appetit, by the way, and their IG takeovers, it looks like. So, and what I really appreciate about your approach to Hmong food and introducing the world really to Hmong food is that you have your own way of talking about it, and you're integrating your heritage, your history, your identity. And one of the biggest things that we're seeing with this foodie world and the industry is, and also you noticed the recent issue with Alison Roman, and also this whole thing about, you know,
trigger words, warning, trigger warning.
Right, warning, trigger warning. Yeah. So unless our ethnic food is somehow westernized or marketed by white people, then it becomes more palatable. And so there's been a lot of think pieces about this. I think in this, especially during this pandemic, it's much more relevant, right? Because there is a lot more content out there about pandemic-friendly staples, or like staple stuff and survival type of food, and pantry-ready stuff. Like, what do you say to all that? What does that mean to you? Yeah.
So when we first started doing our pop-ups, we've had I call them keyboard warriors. You know, people that will troll you and talk trash, but like they will never get beyond the keyboard. The reason I know that is I responded privately to some of these people and never got any response back, right? And so a lot of the keyboard warriors were Hmong people that would say, you know, you're bastardizing our food for your own glory. You're not making Hmong food. How dare you do that? You know, making Hmong food has to be done this way. They're very, I call them the hardliners. They're very specific. It has to be this way. Very angry. Like, it's like I kicked their dog or something. I'm like, what? People that won't engage in dialogue with me. I remember I wrote a little story about, you know, the herb boiled chicken, Hmong boiled chicken, you know, for the women who were post-labor. And I posted a little story about that. And my experience with that is not trying to mansplain anything, but my experience with that is my mother, my sister, and my sister-in-law went all through all that, and they spoke to me about it. And so I was talking about that, and you know, we got some really just hateful things, kind of like, how dare you degrade our Hmong people, to, you know, like Hmong women this way. And I'm like, what are you talking about, you know? And I say all this to say this, is that sometimes people come into this conversation with a lot of things, a lot of baggage. There are people that come in this conversation that are very angry because they've been hurt, you know? So this conversation about the appropriations of food, you know, how, you know, like quote unquote, like white chefs are taking, you know, people of color, their food and their culture's food, and they're capitalizing on it. There are some people that have done that, and there are some chefs that are people of color, who have been stepped over because of that. And so there's a lot of different baggages that people are bringing into this conversation. And I'm there too. Like, I was the kid who never wanted to bring Hmong food to school. When we were packing food for school, I was so embarrassed that my mom would pack the food for us because it would smell funny, and then I got made fun of at school.
Right.
And I think as a child, as a kid growing up, I'd be very mad. And I would even lie to my mom that I ate the food. I just threw it away, but I brought the cup, the Tupperware bag, and I say, "Oh yeah, I ate it," And I would always get so mad when I would get so embarrassed too, because sometimes our, when you're kids, you like type in your number and like your account, the money account at school for your school lunch. Yeah, like it would be so low. I feel very embarrassed, like, so I couldn't have food there. And I was always very embarrassed with my mom and dad. I didn't want people to know that my mom and dad didn't speak English. I didn't want them to know that.
Right.
And so for me, it's this very sensitive issue. And I get really mad when I see like white chefs, like, mainstream culture, white chefs who are saying, "Hey, let me tell you about fish sauce. Like, let me tell you about why it's so good." When I was a kid and I got made fun of that kind of stuff, and I get really frustrated. I'm like, F you guys, like, what the heck? Like, you guys can do that, but then you guys are also like, when we were kids, you were the same dudes that made fun of me for it.
Yes. Yeah.
And the one thing I had to learn how to do is forgive. That is the biggest thing, is you got to learn how to forgive. I know that there's a lot of pain that comes into this kind of conversation, appropriation of any kind, music, food, art. There's a lot of pain.
Right.
There comes a point where the person who, like me, who was really angry about it, you have to forgive them. And you gotta move past that. Honest truth, a lot of my friends who are chefs, they want to know about Hmong food because they're just excited about it. Especially white guys, white chefs. They're just like, "Man, can you help me? Can you show me?" And they're just excited about something that they don't know.
Right.
And so I've had really good experience with that. I've had some really bad experiences with that, but I have to learn to forgive and be like, look, I'm going to step away. I'm going to remove my emotions out of this, because if all we're going to do is just angry, it's just going to be like this the whole time.
Right. Absolutely. So, to lighten that conversation now, we have a couple of questions from folks.
Hopefully I didn't open something bad.
Yeah, I know. I know, we got real deep on that one. So Vanita asked, are there any freezer tips? Because we're talking about freezers.
Sorry.
My phone and my fridge is packed to the brim. I also tried to freeze copiac noodles, and they broke and stuck together when I thawed it.
Copiac noodles does not work. Copiac noodle is what I call it. Like, you make it, you eat it right there and then. Yeah. Like that I've even tried copiac noodles and then like the next day, just because it's made out of rice flour and tapioca starch. Like, it doesn't have gluten to hold it. So it doesn't, it's not like regular dough. It breaks easily. Yeah. So copiac noodle, that doesn't really work unless you have like a vacuum sealer and you can suck back in a vacuum sealer, which is like an industrial thing where like a lot of restaurants might have. But other than that, copiac noodle is kind of hard to do, because the moment it freezes, it's on a molecular level. The moment it freezes, that moisture inside the copiac noodle crystallizes, and so when it thaws out, it turns back into water, and then it just turns.
That's true. Do not freeze your copiac noodles.
And copiac noodle always tastes better the day you make it, because it's like
absolutely
after you war with it, and you're like flour everywhere, and you're like, and you got that bowl, and you're just like, it's like, yeah, that's the stuff, and you got like, and then you go shower, and you're like, where did I get dough? How did it get in here?
That's real.
That's so you're like, I did this. And
exactly.
Making fresh copiac noodle too, while with your friends eating, it's like, that's true love. Like, if you really love them, you will go through that process.
Absolutely.
Freezer space. Another thing the trick we use for freezer is use a Ziploc bag and try to for example, we when I make like pork, for dumplings or whatever, right? And there's some bunch left over, I put it in a Ziploc bag and then I try to squeeze it down so it's flat. So, and then, and try to get all the air out of it. And then you lock it down, and then you can just stack them, and also when you have like for example, it's like frozen dumpling stuffing, like pork dumpling stuffing that's frozen, you can actually just pull that out and run it under some cold water. In like 10-15 minutes, it's thawed out, so yeah. So I just try to keep things tiny so you can just slip it in the middle.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So Too's asked, what kind of Hmong style sauce would you recommend for barbecue brisket?
For barbecue brisket?
Yeah, apparently. What kind of Hmong style sauce would you recommend for a barbecue brisket? That's what someone asked.
Like to go along with the barbecue brisket?
I guess so.
So like the Hmong sausage that we make, so we use a recipe that my dad did growing up. He kind of showed us. We do 60 or 70% shoulder, 30% belly. But sometimes when we feel pretty like luscious, we'll do 40% belly and 60% shoulder. And so we do that grind, ginger, lemongrass, shallots, Thai chilies, fish sauce, garlic, just, mix it all up. That's the kind we do for our trailer. Yeah. And some Hmong people, they like it real coarse. So it's a more coarse grind, so it's like a little chunkier. Since we just don't have space to do it at where we are, we give the recipe to my buddy Eric, who owns a butcher shop. They make the sausage for us, just because we just don't have the space for it, and they make sausage all the time. So their grind is a little thinner, a little more finer. So it's almost kind of like a brat, bratwurst type grind. But yeah, that's what we use.
Okay, that's a great tip. So I'm going to end it with one last question from Jo Pa. She asked, I think this is similar to an earlier question about defining Hmong food, but how do you talk about Hmong food when it gets informed by other Southeast Asian cuisines and flavors like Vietnamese, Thai, etc.?
Mm-hmm. How do I talk about Hmong food even though it's influenced by other Southeast Asian cultures?
How do you talk about, how do you define it?
Kind of like what I said in the beginning. I believe that Hmong food is it's a story. It tells a story of our people. One of the things we always talk about, and one of the things we always say within Union Hmong Kitchen or Vinai, we always say that every dish has a narrative. If you follow that dish long enough and close enough, you get to the people behind the food. And once you're there, it's really not about food, it's about people. And that's the point, is the story. And so, for example, some of the first Hmong-owned restaurants in St. Paul on University Ave, they made pho and spring rolls. They were under the umbrella of Thai restaurants, but they were Hmong owned. And the question is, well, why do you have to be? Why weren't they just Hmong restaurants?
Yeah.
The fact is that people didn't know how to categorize Hmong. So if you said Thai, oh yeah, you can get the people come in and they'll eat. Right. And you really see how our culture had to build on the backs of other cultures just to get recognition. And so there was this group of restaurateurs, these Hmong restaurateurs, these guys who own restaurants that were hustlers, and they hustled. And they did all of that in the early 80s. They did all of that so that me, like 30 years later, I don't have to do that. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like that, these guys, they're these trailblazers who shoveled out this trail so that I can walk on it easier. And so like we can talk about Hmong food in the way of, yes, it gets influenced by all these different cultures because we have, as a people group, we've rubbed shoulders with all these different cultures. A lot of the food we do is influenced by, Midwestern farmers up here. So we do a lot of root vegetables, like we use, parsnips, we use rutabaga, we use turnips. One of my favorite dish is these little turnips called hakiri turnips that we char them, we grill them, right? And then right at the end, we toss them with a little oyster sauce and serve it over kodi or rice porridge.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell me that's not Hmong food, because I guarantee you 45 years ago, if my parents were here, my grandparents were here, they would be using the same thing around them. So that's what I say. I say that our food tells the story of our people. And that's why we have, like, Hmong food is Hmong food because it's made by Hmong people.
That's great. So we're going to close up now, but before we go, I wanted to say thank you to you for sharing your space, your home, your story, and your dish, your childhood dish or comfort dish. So my last closing, and I'll let you close this out, but if you're in a room full of other young, aspiring chefs who are super excited about Hmong food, what is one thing you would say to them?
Gosh, I feel old saying this, but I say listen. First I would say is us now, me, we stand, to the young folks, I would say, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And these are our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, the ones who have fought a war, for those who died in the war, for those who die hoping that their great-great-grandkids will see freedom and will be able to come to America. Like, we stand on the shoulders of those giants. And we need to stop what we are doing, because I think that it's great that a lot of young people, especially Hmong people, are like, we're looking towards the future, we're looking towards the future. My belief is that you have to know your past to know where you are now, so that you know where you're going. And for me, it took me going back to my mom and dad, listening to the stories of my father and how he crossed the Mekong River, the things he had to do during the war, listening to my mom, and we talk, my mom and I, we talk recipe a lot. She's always like, hey, I was trying this, what do you think? And those stories enrich what I can do. So when people go, oh, hey, like, let's talk about your food, I'm like, it's not really my food. I'm just a curator. Like, I get the ability to stand on platforms and talk about the legacy of my mom and dad. And that's what excites me. Because one day there's going to be some young cook that's going to come and cook me. I don't care, whatever. It's cool. I don't really care about that. But they're not going to tell my parents' story better than me. Like, that's up to me. So that's what I would tell those young kids who are excited about Hmong food and want to be a part of this. I say, hey, you guys, like, go back, listen to your parents, hear the stories of your grandparents, know their story. Because if you want to be able to be a great cook, you got to know their stories. And you got to know why you're cooking the food you are.
And there you have it. That's the success of Chef Yia Vang. And so for those of you who are joining us too, please support Chef Yia by ordering from Union Kitchen. Is there anything else you want to put a plug in for too, Chef?
Order takeout? I don't know.
That's it. Order takeout. Support your local food workers.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things we've always said was, hey, man, like, if you guys don't order from us, like find your neighborhood. What restaurant around your neighborhood that's, independently owned? Like, what are they doing for takeout? Order like once a week. Just do, like, I have a friend who twice a week he orders takeout for his family, and he just picks different restaurants.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I think we're over time, but I just want to say thank you to you and Mary, and we will talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you.